Hey everyone, it's Jonathan, and welcome to episode 101 of the Disney Movie Marathon. And fittingly, almost as if I'd planned it that way, we're talking about Walt Disney's 1961 film, 101 Dalmatians. When I first realized that Sleeping Beauty was going to be my 100th episode of the podcast, I knew I had to do 101 Dalmatians immediately afterwards. The opportunity was too good to pass up, since 101 Dalmatians literally follows Sleeping Beauty in the official Disney canon. Joining me to talk about this film are Eli Sanza, Mark Brown, and Sarah North. All of us are big fans of this one and all the fascinating history that went into its creation, so let's just jump right into the episode. I feel like it had been kind of forever since I'd seen this, but this is one of the movies that I feel like I watched a lot as a kid. A bunch of the previous Disney movies I didn't watch a ton. Like, I didn't watch Cinderella a lot as a kid, Sleeping Beauty a lot, Snow White. I didn't watch most of them a lot. Bambi and Fantasia were the two that I watched the most. But other than that, I think we're just now starting to get into things that I watched a lot. Probably borrowing from the library. I think maybe a family friend let us borrow a VHS of this, and we watched it a bunch then. So this one I was very familiar with. It was kind of strange watching it back because I was like, I feel like I can quote this along with it, even though it's been years since I watched it.
Yeah, this was one I watched a lot as well, as a kid and as an adult.
Yeah, and it's played at my house recently. So, yeah, I just had it keep me company before this podcast while I was doing other stuff. It's very familiar.
On my most recent re-ranking of the Disney canon, this was my number 11 film in the Disney canon. This one I love a lot.
So you just took the zero out of the middle.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
Yeah, this one I love a lot too. I grew up on this one. This was one of the, like, I grew up in a family with a lot of Disney movies on VHS, and this was one of the ones that we had, and I watched it a lot, and I still love it. It still holds up. It's one of my favorite Disney movies of all time, actually. It's up there in the ranking.
That seems proper.
Yeah.
I think we're all kind of in agreement of that.
Oh, yeah.
It seems.
Yeah.
I love the book. I really enjoy the movie, and I love the book.
Well, I never read the book, so I can't say.
You should
me
read
neither.
it. You should read it. It's so good.
Is it still in print?
I bought a copy on Amazon, but I couldn't find it in hardcover. I had to get paperback, which I was upset about. I haven't read it yet, but I bought it, so I'm planning on reading it. I told Sarah we should do a podcast just on the book because they made a lot of changes.
Because they also wrote a sequel, I think, called like this something about the Twilight Bark or something. I think it was the sequel to the book.
Yeah, and I've read about that one too, but I've not read it. Apparently it went into like sci-fi territory.
Oh, wow.
I had never read that.
That's something you don't expect with Dalmatians.
Here's the thing. So Dodie Smith, growing up with 101 Dalmatians, it was given to me for my birthday or Christmas or something, and then I lost it, and I think it was rediscovered very recently. She did such a magnificent job with this story, and I decided to try out one of her other books. It was earlier. It was called I Capture the Castle, and it's one of the worst books that I have ever read in my entire life.
Wow.
I can't unread it. And so I'm just going to be mean and say proceed with caution if you're going to read her, whatever other, if it's Dodie Smith, I'm just gonna question. But 101 Dalmatians, absolutely fabulous. Would recommend reading and rereading it. And I feel like they kept the spirit of the book, even though they kind of simplified the story more. I feel like they kept the spirit of the book with this movie a lot. So, yeah,
That's good.
I think they made a movie or a TV show based on a Capture the Castle, like in the past, like 5 or 7 years.
It would be very fitting for a disappointing BBC that you see on PBS. Like, really? Okay.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So, yeah, Dodie Smith wrote a good book, but she doesn't always write good books, is the point.
Yeah, so, like, I don't know if the sequel to 101 Dalmatians is any good.
I know I've read that people think it's kind of bizarre because it went into like sci-fi territory. There was like alien dogs or something. I have not read it myself. I've just read people's reactions to it.
We'll count on you, Jonathan, if you want to read that and tell us if
I
it's
probably will eventually. If we do a podcast on the book, I will read it for that.
because if it turned out to be really fun, I would consider reading it. But
It kind of reminds me of like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and then the sequel was a science fiction story where they go to outer space.
the first one was so bizarre that seems more fitting.
Well, that's true.
And I think I did read that one, and it was fine.
I read the sequel, the Glass Elevator, but I don't remember it much, so I kind of don't remember an outer space scene.
Yeah, if they
I
had made
trust
a
you.
movie, we would remember it better.
When I read it, I was a kid, and I liked it better than the first one because I loved all the weird stuff. Like they meet aliens, like I think the aliens eat humans,
Which is
like the
very
vermicious
Jonathan
canids.
to be happy about.
Snozwagners and the Hornswoggles.
It's a
wow.
bizarre book, but it kind of struck me as funny that you have two classic novels that everybody knows, like everybody knows the movie version, and like, oh yeah, it's based on a book, but then nobody knows about the sequel, and the sequel is weirdly sci-fi.
Yeah.
I feel that sequel is probably more well known than I would say the 101 Dalmatians sequel is.
How does everybody feel about the animation style in this one? Because I had heard that it was simplified and that Walt didn't really like it as much. And it's like, I think it's charming and I really like it.
I always loved it. I never knew it had complaints until I got older and started, doing more research and learning about how Walt felt about it and all that. But like, I thought it fit the story, especially the contemporariness of it, because I think, this is probably the first or one of the first contemporary settings of an animated Disney canon film.
I suppose
I think it. I know it just. I can't picture it looking any other way.
Maybe it's the thing of if you're living in that time, you don't realize how charming something might be to somebody 50 years later or whatever.
Well, that movie was really popular. A lot of people liked it. So, like, I think the Walt Disney was really the only person who really had a problem with it. But that's just because
He has high standards.
I mean, that was just because, Sleeping Beauty was the movie that came out before 101 Dalmatians, and Walt was just disappointed that the animation style looked sort of cheaper than it did in Sleeping Beauty because he liked the way Sleeping Beauty looks. It was like colorful and beautiful and gothic and really cool looking. But like since Sleeping Beauty didn't do well at the box office, then they had to cut their budgets, and that's why they made the animation less. They got rid of the ink and paint department and just made their drawings like from pencil just straight to the screen using the Xerox process.
It looks
And
good.
if the Xerox process hadn't been invented, we would never have had that movie, or at least not at that time.
Yeah.
I can't imagine trying to do the regular ink and paint process with all of these dogs.
Oh,
I feel like that would have just been impossible.
You'd have to just make them all look the same with one dot.
Yes. Oh, I don't think it could have been done if like that. The fact that they cheapened the budget was like perfect for this movie because like all those spots, there were like thousands, like.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like, but I like the style. Just like Mark said, it was like it fits with the contemporary story, and it's not just. It doesn't even look cheap. It's not like Hanna-Barbera or anything. It's like it looks like a very deliberate contemporary, like kind of modern style, and I really like it.
Charming.
And I like how they did the backgrounds too. It just gave it kind of like an illustrated feeling. I mean, they're all illustrations, of course, but it felt like it just fit the time period because it wasn't the first one that was set in the year that it was made or around the same year. I think Dumbo might have been the first one, but it was one of the first ones that is like instantly recognizable. Like, yes, this was made around the year that it is set. And I feel like it fits that time period perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you all know what the animation studio UPA, right?
Yeah.
No.
I've heard of it. What did they do?
They did Gerald McBoing Boing and Mr. Magoo, and like they were really like
they did a lot of limited animation kind of stuff and like presidential adverts and stuff like that.
Yeah, like they were big in the 50s, and like if you look at the animated cartoons from the 50s, they all sort of like sort of borrowed more from UPA, started looking more stylized and more a little bit more flat, and so they were the ones that popularized that. This 101 Dalmatians sort of reminds me of that in the way that Sleeping Beauty sort of reminded me of that too, because they were sort of like a little bit. Sleeping Beauty was a little bit more angular in their style and less round than a lot of Disney movies were, but 101 Dalmatians took it to a new level because like just like Jonathan was talking about the backgrounds, they look very UPA-ish because they don't look real, they don't look realistic, they look like stylized. They look really
Mm.
arty. Like you can
Mm.
tell that they were just trying to go for something like really like stylish when they made the background.
Which is
Yeah.
nice.
And I know a lot of, well, probably mostly Walt, but the big, I guess, knock against the Xerox process is that the lines aren't perfect because
Oh yeah.
it's kind of sketchy looking because a lot of the, like when you're Xeroxing it, a lot of the pencil lines are kept in the final drawing because there's no really an easy way to get rid of them. But
Yeah.
I feel like it gives this just an extra look. Like
Yeah.
it's not even something that's like super noticeable, but if you didn't have that, it wouldn't feel the same. And I like the feeling that it gives the movement.
Yeah.
I feel if no one had told me about it, I wouldn't have noticed.
I don't think I would have either, but since I'm looking into the
Yeah,
art
yeah.
stuff and I've known like for years about the Xerox process and how it differs from the original. And you can tell when you're looking for it. But if you're not looking for it, you probably don't notice, but you can tell if you think about it that there is a difference between how the movies looked before this one and how they looked for quite a while after this one.
Yeah. And I really love the that sketchy like look. That I can sort of see like the sketches in the characters like that are the unerased sketch marks. But then why is that a bad thing? I don't mind that. And I think the reason why Walt didn't like it was because like if you look at every other film that he made that his studio made before 101 Dalmatians, they're all very like you can tell they're trying to be realistic and you can tell they're trying to create an illusion of reality, and that was kind of like what he always did with like from like Mickey Mouse to Snow White to Fantasia, always trying to take you into the animated world and make you feel like it was real. And 101 Dalmatians sort of like broke that illusion, which I don't think a lot of like younger people and more like creative people didn't have a problem with, especially the UPA crowd, because it was like sort of like new and different, and Walt might have just been like old fashioned about that. And so he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a fan, but I think there is a story about how like the guy who was in charge of the animation, the Xerox process, or like the 101, I can't remember his name, but it was 101 Dalmatians art director, like
I
right
think it
before
was
Walt
Ken
Disney.
Anderson. Are you talking about right before Walt died? Because I wrote down that quote.
You know this, yes.
Yes.
Right before he died. This is a great story. Like right before he died, he like complimented Ken Anderson on the style. Like he said something like it wasn't that bad. And he was like trying to like say something nice about it. Like and that was like the last thing he said to Ken Anderson before he died.
Yeah, because before, when the movie it was in production, about done, like, Walt hated the look, and he said, he was ranting about Ken Anderson, and he said, Ken's never going to be an art director again.
Mm,
And he, of course, always remembered that. But then he said that he knew that Disney finally forgave him on his final trip to the studio in late
mm,
1966. And he said, Walt looked very sick, but he said, "It's great to see you, Walt." And he said, "You know that thing you did on Dalmatians?" And he didn't say anything else, but he gave me this look, and I knew that all was forgiven. And in his opinion, maybe what I did on Dalmatians wasn't so bad. And that was the last time I ever saw him, and a few weeks later I learned he was gone.
yeah, that was it. That's a sweet story. I like
Yeah.
that. Like he knew he was probably like going to die soon, and
Mhm.
he didn't want to like leave that relationship in a bad place before he left.
Making his amends.
Yeah,
That's an example of somebody meeting somebody where they are, because if he didn't say anything, he was willing to infer and be gracious
yeah, yeah,
about it.
yeah. And I'm glad that he like did that because it was like, oh, okay, so like you would think when you think about Walt Disney, like he's so like on the like cutting edge of like technology like all the time. He's always like trying to think about what to do next. Like when he conquered animation, he decided to like work in theme parks. And when he conquered theme parks, he decided, oh, let me make Epcot, let me make a whole world of tomorrow, like which is something that like he didn't really get a chance to do before, after like since he died before that. But yeah, he was always like, you would think that like something like 101 Dalmatians would be like something that he would be fine with just because it's so new and different. And he sort of seemed like he came around to it though.
Yeah, I think he was just kind of upset that it wasn't perfect because the sketchy lines aren't perfect.
I don't know how much
they
I've
can't
ever
be,
paid
but
attention.
yeah, but he did.
Right, because it's his, perfectionist.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Perfectionistic, artistic.
He is a perfectionist. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I can totally believe that. And come from plenty of perfectionists in my family. I'm one of them. And like with my dad, if something is a 1/16 of an inch off, it might, like literally, that might bother him. So...
Oh yeah.
He's
you know
working,
exactly.
Oh, he's working on letting go more, but I get that.
I have that too. I have a perfectionist mind. I try not to be a slave to it because it'll drive me too crazy if I care too much. But like I have it in my mind, in the back of my mind. I always think this could be better, that could be better.
Which means that you can make really wonderful stuff, but I've also had it where I started to make something worse because I cared too much, and when I just loosened up and let the art project flow, it's like, oh yeah, no, I got this. So it's a kind of it's a two-edged sword. It's a blessing and also easily overdone.
Yeah, it's about balance basically. Yeah.
So about 101 Dalmatians.
Well, let's talk about the story a little bit. I didn't realize that Bill Peet was the one who put the story together. And I don't know if anybody else would have known this, but when I was a kid, Bill Peet was like my favorite author, like really young, because he went on from Disney to become a children's book author. And I loved his books. I borrowed them from the library all the time.
What were they?
The one that I'm thinking of specifically is called The Wingding-Dilly, but there was another one, I can't think of the title now, where it was just a bunch of made-up animals, and it was just like a book about animals, but they were all made up. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that was so fascinating. I borrowed those two specifically from the library a lot, but he had a lot more. I've been trying to find them, but they're out of print, and they're like $50 for one children's book, so
Dang.
I have not bought them.
Man, you need a lucky garage sale.
Apparently.
That's true.
I wonder if the library still has them.
I remember seeing Bill Peet books when I was a kid. Like my introduction to Bill Peet was seeing those books, and I liked those illustrations, and they were like very like stylized and different from the other books. And then I found out later once I was able to read, then I was able to read the credits, and once I was able to read the credits, I realized, oh wait a minute, is that the Bill Peet who worked on 101 Dalmatians? Is that the same Bill Peet who was an author? And then like my older brother told me that was the same guy. So I found out later, after having been introduced to him as an author, that he was like a Disney storyboard artist.
Mm-hmm. I don't think I realized that he worked at Disney until I was an adult and started looking into like Disney history and stuff. And then I read the name Bill Peet and I was like, wait, is that the Bill Peet who wrote those books I loved as a kid? And yes, it was.
Is he still living?
I never heard of Bill Peet as an author as a kid. And you know, I read a lot, so you would think I would hear about them, but I didn't know about it until Jonathan mentioned it on a previous podcast.
This is the first time hearing of him, I think, so.
He died in 2002, so.
How old was he?
87.
Okay.
Well, I also can't really recall any of the names of his books, so it's not like I was a huge fan. I wasn't as much of a fan of him as Jonathan was. So like I couldn't really like figure out like what he made exactly, but I just remembered his name because he made a lot of books, and I remember seeing that name, and I remember associating his name with those images.
Yeah, the Wingding-Dilly is the one that I remember the most. I'm going to look through his bibliography and see if I can recognize the title of the one about the made-up animals. I know I'll recognize it if I see it.
Is it the Wump World?
I don't think so. No Such Things. That was the one. Oh, and Zella, Zack, and Zodiac. I remember there was a zebra in that one, and I loved that one.
I think he did do the one portal.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, that was one of his books. I don't remember. I don't think I read that one. Or maybe I did. I'm looking at the cover. Maybe I do recognize that one. It must not have been a favorite because I don't remember what that one was about.
I remember reading the one world as a kid. We borrowed that one. That was the one. That must have been how I remembered it.
But yeah, he was probably my favorite author as a kid. Probably specifically because he is one of the only authors that I can remember. Like, I remember covers of books, but I don't remember who wrote them. But Bill Peet, his name stuck in my head into adulthood, so.
Mine was Dr. Seuss.
Oh, that's true. Of course, everybody recognizes Dr. Seuss.
I was about to say, Dr. Seuss, right?
Yes.
Doctor Who.
I don't think I read him
guy.
as much as a lot of kids, but of course I know him.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bill Peet was the one who was basically tasked to turn this book into a movie. And it was the first time that an animated film from Disney was written by just one person.
Mm.
I think I read somewhere that Dodie Smith had written 101 Dalmatians and had hoped that, Disney would want to buy the rights to it to make it into a film.
I had read that too, and he bought the rights like pretty much immediately. Like he had the rights either less than a year or just a year after it was published.
When was it published?
It was published in 1956, and
wow.
It was an immediate hit, and then he got the rights right after that.
Smart.
Yeah.
But I also thought it was kind of amusing that she was like semi-involved, but not like super involved. But Bill Peet would send her stuff, like send her drawings and stuff about the story. And she wrote back and told him that he had improved her story and the designs looked better than the illustrations in her book.
She was like the anti-P.L. Travers.
That's exactly what I was thinking. This huge contrast to what happened with Mary Poppins.
Yeah, that's so refreshing. Like, oh my God, she's so nice.
Yes.
I'm wondering, because the illustrations in the book that I have were really, really nice, but, it could be just somebody making illustrations later than whatever she had in hers. Like, they were pretty realistic pencil.
The author owned a Dalmatian, right? I think I read that that's how she got the idea. I mean, that's what inspired her to put a Dalmatian.
It would totally make sense.
Honestly, would be surprised if he didn't own a Dalmatian.
This was a great story for showing different breeds, even though they're not naming all of the breeds. I like the whole, parade of people with their pets that look like them.
Oh, yeah.
I loved that. I loved that.
Which is, in my mind, there's a lot of reality to that, too. Like, they exaggerated a bit, but...
Yeah, no, that's based in reality. I see what you mean by that.
The artist with the Afghan hound's pretty great.
It's only Pongo and Perdita who don't look like their owners, or their pets, as they call them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they probably are the farthest off, and...
Yeah. It's not the same, but it only struck me as I was writing the notes that Perdita rhymes with Anita. Anita and Perdita.
I didn't think that either.
Yeah.
Perdita's a pretty name, though.
I don't think I've ever heard it anywhere other than this movie.
Well, they call her Purdy all the time for short, so that could be why you didn't notice.
That's true.
In the book, there's another female dog that they rescue before the puppies I think even gets stolen. She has the liver-colored spots. So she did encompass the two colors.
Yeah, let me look at my notes. I wrote down what they listed on Wikipedia as all of the things, maybe not all of them, but a lot of the things that were specifically changed. And there were 2 Dalmatians that were merged into one. Their birth mother was Mrs. and their adoptive mother was Perdita, and they just made them into one character.
Didn't Perdita have an ex-husband or something too?
I don't know. I haven't read the book yet.
I think Perdita may have been owned by a farmer, and then when her puppies were gone, I don't know if she went looking for them or just got really...
The reason I say that, I remember one of the DVD releases of 101 Dalmatians, I forget which one, they had a trivia bonus feature that would pop up like trivia facts throughout the movie. And I vaguely remember reading one where it said something along those lines, like they were trying to count how did you get 101 total Dalmatians in the book, and I think there were actually three adults. It was like Pongo, Perdita, and I think Perdita like ex-husband or something like that. But I don't know if I remember that correctly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, it was the two female dogs, because you have Pongo and his lady, and then they adopted the one, and she was like, I think maybe
Okay.
she even got her puppies back. I'm not sure, but like surrogate mom, and I think that maybe, don't quote me, but
Hmm.
Pongo's mate may have actually been having a harder time keeping up nursing all of her puppies. I could be wrong. Either, and I feel like the one with the liver spots really liked washing things, like bathing the puppies or trying to bathe the darling's hands. Like she really wanted to be helpful and motherly. She's a very sweet character in the book, but it's understandable that they would simplify that out of their. I'd like to point out two things. That the DeVille. Am I jumping ahead too much?
It's fine.
The DeVille Hall was in the book,
Oh,
and
that's a twist.
that Dalmatian plantation, they actually bought DeVille Hall
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the book.
Oh, interesting.
And Cruella DeVille, yes, they established that she loves furs, but she's actually referred to as a miss somewhere in this movie, when in reality she was married to a furrier. So this whole collecting all the dogs has more context if you know that her husband is in the fur trade or the fur business.
Ah,
Maybe that's the headcanon. Maybe her husband died in a tragic Dalmatian accident, and out of revenge, that's why she hates all the Dalmatians and wants to kill them.
He was. I don't know if he has one line in the book. Like he's like this quiet person who was not, like, he didn't have high moral standards, but she was the loud, probably the loud leader, and probably just married him because he was a furrier.
Oh, wow.
And then they had this cat. They had this cat in the book where
Sergeant Tibbs?
Cruella. No, Cruella had a cat,
Oh,
like
wow.
a fancy cat, and I think that she killed all of her kittens anytime
Ooh.
she had kittens. And so towards the end of because in this story you don't really see her getting her comeuppance, you see them getting away. But one of the ways, I don't know if she was ever arrested in the book or anything, I think they might have fled the country, but the cat had its revenge by destroying furs in the household. Like there was this point where, and I think that she might have actually gone to live with the darlings too, and maybe gotten to keep some kittens. So
I wrote down that she had a cat, because, again, I have not read the book myself yet. But also on Wikipedia, they said that Sergeant Tibbs in the book is a female named Pussy Willow. Is that the same character, or is this a different character?
No. Cruella DeVille literally had a cat in her house in town. It might have been like a white Persian or something.
Okay, so Pussy Willow, who became Sergeant Tibbs, is a totally different cat.
I love Sergeant Tibbs.
Yes.
yeah.
And it's probably a similar deal in the book. And I love the Colonel. I really love the Colonel. He's one of my favorite things.
That was fun.
Oh, yeah. Sergeant Tibbs and the Colonel are like two of my favorites.
As they should be. I love the collie.
Oh, the collie who saved them in the snow.
I don't think there's one hate-worthy dog in this movie. Thankfully,
You don't think there's one what?
hate-worthy dog. I don't.
Hate-worthy.
They didn't make any of them bad guys, which is nice.
Nah.
No, I think Disney liked dogs in general, so I think all his dogs are generally good.
Oh, yeah. He was like pro dog.
But they didn't make any animal, a bad guy in this story, which is nice. There were no evil cats. There were no mistyped Dobermans.
I don't know. Like I like the story because it like only the humans were evil. All the animals were like literally all the animals were like not even just the dogs, just like some of the geese. Like they were just all teaming up against the humans. It was like I like the stories about like animals teaming up to defeat humans. Those I'm a sucker for those.
Like cats versus dogs. That's bringing back memories.
Another thing that they left out of this. Oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't even tell you because you might actually you might go off and read the book and then I've spoiled it. Should I keep it to myself?
I mean, if you want,
Spill it.
if you can say
Okay.
it.
Now that I'm thinking about it, this movie has, I mean, the book has all of these examples of people's relationship to dogs, whether you're a really loving owner, whether you're the worst, or a couple of things that it's understandable that they left out. There's a point where, because, you know, in the book you're reading about the journey, whereas in the movie it didn't take them very long to get there. But there's an instance where this little boy is acting like he's going to give, I think, Pongo food. And instead of that, I think maybe he throws a rock at him and hurts him. And he's trying to trick him again. And I don't know if at some point Pongo gets the food anyway and then the little boy's mad. But it's just this example of, you know, childish cruelty towards an animal. Maybe he doesn't fully realize what he's doing. And then there's another part where they stop off at, I think it might be kind of a rich house, but there's hardly anybody there. The master of the house is a very elderly man who has a dog, and it's almost like he has dementia or something. And so this guy's, I think his personal dog is looking after the Dalmatians, just the two of them. They haven't gotten there that yet. And at some point the man sees them, and I think he just talks kindly to them, but in his mind it's like he's just imagining that the dogs are there. It's like he doesn't take it seriously that he actually has these stray dogs in his house. But yeah, there are these interesting little vignettes in the story that it's understandable that they cut them out. But yeah, different people, different little character sketches and people's relationship to their dogs.
That is interesting.
And I think the guy's dog may have actually kind of been looking out for him too. I don't know. It's sweet. But yeah, definitely recommend the book.
Yeah, I need to read this one.
Or you could get audiobook if you have a tedious drive ahead of you.
I think for me, like, Roger and Anita are like one of my favorite Disney couples. I really like them together and their marriage.
Yeah, I do too. They're a great couple. I like them, and they're good characters.
I do like the part in the pond, like, oh, I say, take mine.
Oh, the way they met is so good. I love that
Yeah.
scene.
Pongo pretty much set it up. It's like, look, if
Yes.
Roderick
Yes.
is not going to find anyone, let me do. I have to do the work myself.
Yeah. Oh, diabolical Pongo. Yeah, the way he did that.
Sometimes you just gotta take matters in your own hands.
Yeah, I know it worked out. So he was apparently he knew what he was doing. But there was so much suspense in that scene. Like, oh my God, she got up to leave. Now what are we gonna do? And it's like, literally, it's just he was so determined. Like it didn't even matter if they fell into the water. Okay, I was like, oh, good, they met. Now they can get together. It was like Bongo is like the hero of the story.
For sure.
I thought it was interesting how quickly everything moved, but they didn't do it in a way that it felt unrealistic, because
Yeah.
you could tell that there were time jumps happening, but I thought they paced it really well, because
Oh,
like
they did, yeah.
it was decently short, but it didn't feel short.
Yeah. This is actually a short movie overall, but you're right. It was very well paced.
Oh, quick trivia about trivia. The television show that they're watching with the bands is based off of what real life show?
What's my line?
Ding, ding, ding. You win
What do I win?
You win the pretend prize. I don't know your
Okay.
address or anything. Maybe Jonathan could come up with a way to send you
Yeah.
a sticker or
Oh, but
something.
talk about talk about a TV show that I did not know about as a kid, though. Like,
No, we had no
I don't think
clue.
anyone
And then I
would, yeah.
figured out somewhere as an adult that this was, and it's actually, it can be a pretty fun show. I've watched some
I liked
clips.
it a lot.
I think we watched some of it on YouTube.
Yeah,
yeah.
I know I have. I haven't in a while, But especially as somebody who grew up with like some of the vintage shows and movies and everything, so it's not like, well, even without that, them just trying to guess regular people's professions.
Yeah.
But I'm like a history buff about film and television, so I've seen a lot of like old black and white television shows from the 50s. So I remember watching that one. It might have been on MeTV or something, but I remember watching that, and it was a good show actually.
They had Eleanor Roosevelt as a mystery guest one time, I think.
Oh wow.
I saw that
Like,
one.
they got some interesting people on there and oddball professions and
Yeah.
Both Walt Disney and Clarence Nash were on there.
Oh, fun fact.
Oh really? That would have been interesting to watch.
I mean, 2 different episodes, but yeah.
I might have watched the one with Walt. Yeah, just about any famous person at the time. And then and they would have guest people on the panel too, guessing people.
Yeah.
And one of the regulars on there was somebody, oh, what was his name?
Bennett Cerf.
Yes! Oh, dang, that was a nice little piece of telepathy there.
Thanks. We're on the same wavelength, you and I.
You're welcome. Had I even mentioned that he was with publishing?
No, but I was thinking about that too.
Good
He's a random
job.
house guy.
Yeah, and Dorothy Kilgallen, without going into all of her history, if you look into that, that gets really interesting.
Yeah, she died or was killed, depending how you want to look at it.
Oh, she's
while
totally...
I mean, while the show was going on, so they actually had an episode where they paid tribute to her at the end.
Yes. No, her circumstances around her death are very interesting. So without going on into all of that, oh, just, 101 Dalmatians is a lovely story. But yeah, very interesting.
Speaking of murder plots.
Yes.
Yeah,
Nice
yeah.
segue.
Yes. I think one thing I like a lot about the movie in particular, I think this has some of the best voice casts. Like, I think everyone's voice is like perfect for their characters.
Yes.
Betty Lou Gerson as Joanna Deville. I can't imagine anyone else as Deville.
She is
perfect.
such a perfect villain voice.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love her entry line of, what was it?
Anita, darling.
Perfectly miserable, darling, as usual. Perfectly wretched.
I like the
I
way
know
she
I'm
entered
misquoting that, but
Yeah.
I like the way she entered the room, just like an explosion. Just
It shows all her character, right, in that scene.
Exactly. That was a really good character moment.
That's where Roger gets the song idea.
I love the scene where they're trying to talk and you have him upstairs retooling his song into an anti-Cruella song. But I love the angle that they animate him from, like looking up as he's playing the trombone.
Yeah.
Purposely aiming it through the floor to annoy her.
Yeah,
that look of Anita as she looks up with that scowl.
Oh yeah. I felt so bad for Anita in that scene.
Anita is obviously a very pleasant person who hasn't either figured out how to get rid of her or is too nice to, maybe.
My question is, they apparently went to school together. Like, what is the ages here? Like, either Cruella has aged very badly or Anita has aged very well.
I feel like, and then later on you have the puppy, we're going to fool the mad old lady. It's like, no, I think that they were supposed to be basically the same age, and I think a part of that made of that just them being very clear about what type of person she was with the way they animated her.
A heavy smoker.
Heavy smoker. Exactly. That's what I was thinking.
It's either heavy smoker and or someone who got held back a couple of years.
Yeah, like.
And if they were friends in college, it's not impossible that Cruella is older. Like I have technically 3 degrees. The first time I went to college, I was classmates with somebody who was in their 60s while I was in my early 20s. So it's not out of the realm of possibility, but the fact that they're friends makes me think that they're supposed to be of a similar age. Because I did classwork with the woman who was 60, but we weren't like friends that hung out after school.
Yeah, right. My headcanon is she aged poorly.
Yeah, not helped by the green cigarettes.
Yeah, we don't know if there's enough smoke.
I'm pretty sure that was not tobacco.
Yeah.
She was smoking glow sticks, toxic green fumes.
You know,
Exactly.
in the book, she had this odd obsession with pepper, like black pepper, because they actually go and have dinner at her house, and and what did it taste of? Pepper. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah, we don't see her house well. I mean, besides the bedroom.
you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she doesn't live in Hell Hall. She
Yeah,
has a
yeah, she
different
doesn't live
house.
there. Mhm.
But yeah, back to talking about voices. I thought it was interesting. I did not realize that Perdita was voiced by two different people because apparently Lisa Daniels was first cast and she recorded about a third of her lines, but then she got married and moved away.
And you don't even realize it unless you're like actually looking for where the two different sounds are.
Yeah, I wasn't
Voices
thinking about it
coming.
while I was watching it, so I haven't gone back to like look and listen to see where the difference is. But Kate Bauer was her replacement for the rest of the film. Apparently she must have done more than Lisa Daniels, and I wouldn't know what the voice difference was because I'm not very familiar with either of those actresses.
I never noticed.
Yeah, they didn't do much, and there's some discrepancy about Kate Bauer's what year she was born. But one of the candidates for when she was like either 1919 or 1921, and she's still alive. So if that's true, she would be the oldest living voice actor or actress still from a Disney animated feature. But like I said, there's some discrepancy on when her actual birth date is.
Watch her pass away before this gets released.
Yeah,
Because we talked about her and said, oh, she's still alive.
there we go.
Yeah.
Then you
No,
better,
no, on our record. Yeah,
maybe
Eli, this has happened a couple of times already.
if this happens, you could do a little dedicated to maybe.
Well, someone who's definitely old and definitely confirmed is David Frankham, who voices Sergeant Tibbs. He's still alive, definitely, and he's definitely 98 years old as of recording.
You're
he's-
cursing people.
There we go.
Stop calling them out. We are recording this on October 30th, 2024. Depending on when you're listening to this, these people may not be alive. This has happened before. We've talked about someone who was still alive. By the time the episode released, they were dead. So,
All right, Betty Lou Gerson, she's dead. We could talk about it.
Let's talk about Betty Lou Gerson. Yeah.
Ben
kinda
Wright
dark.
voices Roger. And interesting enough, he did two other voices for Disney. He did one of the wolves in Jungle Book, and he did Grimsby in The Little Mermaid. That was his last film.
so it was a huge gap in time from 61 to 89.
Actually, there's a fun story when he was filming, recording for Little Mermaid. He had to actually tell like the filmmakers there who work that he's actually done this before. That he actually did work for Disney doing voices back in the day.
Yeah. I remember hearing about that. Like, they didn't know he voiced Roger when they cast him as Grimsby, and they just found that out.
Oh, so the voice of Roger on here?
Yeah.
Correct.
Oh, that's awkward.
Exactly. And he's also in Sound of Music.
What?
Yeah.
He was Herr Zeller in The Sound of Music, and he also was in a couple of either one or two Twilight Zone episodes. I'm not sure if it's one or two. I don't think he was like a main actor, but like a side character or something.
My sister might know. Who was he on Sound of Music?
Herr Zeller. I'm not sure. I can't remember who that was exactly, but according to Wikipedia, Herr Zeller.
Maybe he was a bad guy.
He's one of the Nazis.
Oh no.
Oh, he was one of the Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guys gotta eat.
That's true.
Yeah. I would play a Nazi if I needed to. If I needed to eat. If I needed to eat.
Yeah, Jonathan, there's your soundbite for this podcast. That's how we make this go viral.
I would play. Don't ever read "I Capture the Castle." I would play a Nazi. I don't think I could handle a troll in Central Park. Is this about 101 Dalmatians or not?
So much gold lines already.
Gold. Yeah.
And Rod Taylor is the voice of Pongo. I think we talked about him in our Sleeping Beauty episode. I can't remember how he came up, but he voices Pongo, and he's done. I guess he's most famous for. He did The Birds, and he did what else?
Time
He
Machine.
did The Time Machine. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, thank you, Time Machine, and also Twilight Zone.
And I'd forgotten he was also Israel Hands in the Long John Silver movie that the three of us talked about a while back.
Oh yeah, yeah. Was that his first movie? Wasn't it?
I don't remember if it was or not.
I can't remember either.
No, his first movie was The King of the Coral Sea. Long John Silver was his second movie.
Okay. Close. Okay.
Nice,
That's
close.
a great name. Like if you were actually a king of the Coral Sea.
One thing I didn't really realize was Martha Wentworth, who voiced Nanny, was also the voices Madam in Sword in the Stone.
Yeah, I didn't realize that till I was making my notes either.
Mm-hmm. Now I could hear it, but like I never thought about it before.
I don't. I'm not even sure I knew that. Like two completely different characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like Verna Felton had range too, so like they hired some talented people.
Yeah. Thurl Ravenscroft, one of his many roles for Disney, he was Captain the Horse.
Oh,
That might have been the voice, because I was thinking a second ago, like it seemed like there was a voice on this movie that seemed very familiar, and I don't know if I had played, so maybe that was it.
It probably was. He was in a ton of Disney stuff. He was a member of the Mellow Men, who was like a group that Disney used for a bunch of stuff, but he was also, he was the voice of Monstro. He has a deep voice, but he had roles in Mary Poppins and The Jungle Book, and I think he was one of the card soldiers in Alice in Wonderland, but he had so many roles.
yeah, that was like the Mellow Men was like they sang "Painting the Roses Red" in Alice in Wonderland, and they sang the Captain Hook song with the Pirates song when they captured all the kids in that movie. And they also the choir that did the Heffalumps and Woozle song. So
Wow.
Mellow Men did a lot of good stuff.
And his most famous voice role, Tony the Tiger.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was wondering. Was he the Grinch song guy too, or no?
Yeah,
The Grinch.
Yeah,
Okay, so
that's the
Mean
song.
One.
Yeah.
so he did way more than I knew, even.
He was very prolific for a while.
Yes. Like you always heard him in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. He was like super prolific.
I don't think I had heard the Mellowmen till tonight. So is this like a famous men's group that did tons of?
It's probably just famous to Disney fans. I don't know that they did a whole lot outside of Disney.
Okay.
Yeah. Did a few things outside of Disney, but like they mostly worked with Disney.
Okay.
I think it was made up of a bunch of people who did a lot of voices for Disney. I think there was multiple. It wasn't just Thurl. I think it was a bunch of people who did voices for Disney that was part of this group.
That's quite the name.
Including Billy, who was the voice of the singing voice of Roger in this.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
According to Wikipedia, the Mellow Men was active from the late 40s through the 70s, and they also sang backup to some artists, including Rosemary Clooney, Bing Crosby, Doris Day, Peggy Lee, Elvis, and Joe Stafford.
Dang.
Yeah, Elvis. Yeah.
I've heard of him.
Speaking of songs, like the songs in this movie, there's like when you think about Disney songs, you don't think about the songs in 101 Dalmatians a lot because there aren't that many. But Cruella de Vil, really, that was a big hit. That's a really good
That's
one.
a classic, yeah.
Classic.
And Canine Crunchies.
Canine Crunchies, that's not a bad song.
It's very catchy.
It isn't a bad song. Like,
And that was sung by Lucille Bliss, who was the voice of Anastasia in Cinderella.
yeah, Lucille Bliss. She was Anastasia in Cinderella, and she went on to voice Smurfette in the Smurfs. Like,
Oh, I don't think I knew that.
She's that canine crunchy voice. It sounds a little Smurfette-y when you think about it too. Like, so yeah, Lucille Bliss and
Dalmatian Plantation.
Dalmatian Plantation. I have that song on my Disney like Spotify playlist. That's a good song. I like that.
You don't get a whole lot of it in the movie. I'm assuming they must have done like a full-length version for an album.
I even have the opening for this movie with that crazy wild opening sequence of 101 Dalmatians. I even have that song in my playlist.
Nice.
I really like, when you pull up the library disc, I think it's playing the initial tune that Roger does when Pongo is giving his monologue about how bachelor life is boring.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
And it was this lovely jazz was like a lovely jazz piece, and it's like, where do I go to get more of that?
You gotta know a guy.
It was so nice, and not like, and I'm if somebody loves really rambly jazz, fine, but like that type of jazz, like Mr. Rogers type piano jazzy,
Right.
like where do I go? Comment below to find some really nice albums like that.
Help Sarah.
Yeah.
Comment below.
I love how they have the entire piano number that Roger does in that scene just on the 101 Dalmatians soundtrack. It's just beginning to end.
Nice.
It's just, no other musical instruments, just full on piano solo.
Nice. The brass is nice in this film too.
Those are the part where he's pointing the trombone down.
Like when Roger stands up to Cruella at the scene when she's trying to take all the puppies after they've been born. Like you can tell, I admire that a lot because you can tell Roger like he's not a strong guy overall. Like he's
not into conflict.
Yeah, especially now. But so you could tell that he's trying his like it's not like easy for him to do what he's doing and he's struggling through it. But he's willing to stand his ground even if he's like stumbling over it. I admire that a lot.
I do too. I like how he's like, you can tell this. It feels like this is like the first time he's ever confronted someone in his life. That's what it almost feels like. It's like and that was a really funny scene too. I like that. I thought that scene was funny. I thought the scene when Roger and Pongo were like nervously waiting when the puppies were born. I thought that scene was funny.
Him standing up to her is probably a good show of what a nice couple they were. This is a nice person who's having to stand up for himself, and then she's so proud and supportive of him. Like, yeah. Very, very sweet.
There's a bloom in your mom.
The scene where the puppies are born, it never struck me until this most recent watch, but like I love the lack of music. The sound in that scene, like with the ticking clock, it's so quiet. Just the sound design of that scene is just perfect. I love that. I love trying to revive the puppy.
Mm-hmm.
That was so well directed. No music. It was just so good.
I hadn't thought about it, but that was a good choice.
There's all kinds of good filmmaking in this movie I could point out. I don't want to like go through the whole thing, but yeah, there's like they make so many good choices.
And then the scene when the confrontation happens, I love a lot of Cruella's lines, but the one that stuck in my head the most when she's calling them horrible little white rats when she thinks they don't have any spots.
She was so demeaning to Roger. She's so like I didn't think about it as a child, but as an adult, like if you had somebody coming in and insulting your household like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was horrible.
Well, she's a Cruella de Vil.
Yes.
If she doesn't scare you, no evil thing will.
That does beg the question, though, because like you learn later on in the movie that he has sold this song that he wrote about her. Like, how is this? Do people know who she is, and how is this legal?
She might have sued. They didn't go over that part of the story, but she probably sued.
She may have been too busy running away from her illegal fur operation to deal with her libel.
Yeah, 'cause I can't imagine that. Like you don't get like full closure as like they aren't arrested, but I can't imagine they get away with this. Jasper and Horace don't seem like the kind of sidekicks that are going to keep their lips shut. I think they'll rat her out as soon as they.
You know what?
Yeah.
Well, they all come back in the sequel. So
I think.
Right.
Is that for real?
Yeah.
I don't remember. I feel like I've watched the sequel, but maybe once.
Yeah, they're all there.
I guess they didn't say on the movie, but I feel like in the book that the boys got to go on What's My Crime. Like they got arrested for some other thing and got to be on What's My Crime. Like they had their own happy ending.
I didn't realize What's My Crime is actually from the book.
I think it might have been.
That's great though, because I loved the scene where they're watching What's My Crime, how into it they were, and they're like, "Oh, I know that guy."
I know that guy.
I could be wrong, but I feel like it was in the book, and like they got to be on it. But maybe I'm I don't think I'm making that up. It's been a while since you can tell it's been a while since I've read it. So
If that's the case, that's like the perfect happy ending for them. Like they do get their comeuppance, but they also get something that they really liked.
The line in this movie that my family and I always quoted and that we really loved was blast this pin, blast this wretched, wretched pin.
I think my mother liked "I'll knock your blinking block off."
There was a lot of good Britishisms with them.
Yeah, Horace and Jess are like some of my favorite side characters in the Disney film. I like the
Yeah.
beginning one, like, we're from the gas company. No, electric.
Oh, that was, yeah.
He's holding a bag that has electric in there, misspelled with R and a carrot to show that it's supposed to be an
Yeah.
olive.
Oh, that was like,
They had
I
their
like-
disguise down.
I like how that plan to pretend that they were part of the electric company like didn't work at all, and so they just decided to just barge in instead, and like and they still succeeded at kidnapping those puppies, but it was just funny how they like were so bad at their job.
Jasper's a lot stronger than you think because he's like so tall and lanky.
Yeah.
He just barges right in.
I can't remember in the book if she had stolen other ones, but it's like, if you go by the movie, like, she could have gotten away with her horrible plan if she just hadn't wanted her own way and her revenge. So
Yeah.
that's a blessing in the story.
Yeah, like obviously I haven't read the book, but in the movie she does say that, well, the one puppy says that they're all bought and paid for. So apparently she's just been going around London buying up all of the Dalmatian puppies she can find.
Yeah. He's like, she might be the most evil of all the Disney villains when you think about it.
I have to wonder though, like, if she were to succeed with this plan, I feel like a dog fur coat would feel so uncomfortable. Especially like a short-haired dog. I don't feel like that would feel nice to wear.
Who are you going to
I know.
sell it to as well? Oh, we just dyed those spots on there.
I don't think she was
Well,
going to sell it. I think she just wanted
I
it
think
for
she's keeping
herself.
it, yeah.
But that many dogs?
I mean, they're little. She
You need 101 of them to make a
big
good coat.
Well, you remember they're like they're too small right now, but because the heat was on, she wanted them killed off.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So I don't know if it was going to be some kind of black market thing where she got to keep whatever, but also the non-existent husband in this version maybe selling them. I
Mr.
don't know.
Deville.
Yes, Mr. DeVille.
Here's something that I never thought of until now. Like, if the customers found out that she killed a bunch of Dalmatian puppies to make those coats, how would they feel about that?
Like I say, black market type. But now I'm trying to remember, like, if she even had her husband's name or whether she was the only DeVille.
Oh yeah, maybe it could have been her maiden.
I'm not sure.
I'm trying to think. I don't think I've ever seen a Dalmatian in real life.
I have.
I have, but it was like a
Nice.
while ago.
Now you're making me question if I have.
You remember New Testament Baptist Church? There was somebody who lived next. I think there was somebody who lived next to New Testament who had a Dalmatian. I could be wrong, but I've seen one in real life.
Nice.
I don't remember that.
And
That would have been decades ago.
last year, I went to a dog show in Omaha with my dad, and it was kind of like watching the national dog show on TV, where all of a sudden I got to see all of these different breeds, and it was so great. Because before that, we'd just gone to collie shows,
Nice.
and I'd seen border collies, of course. It's different dogs, but yeah, no, it was so great. I got to give pets to different ones. Are you guys dog people, cat people, or both?
I'm scared of dogs, so I'm not a dog guy at all. So
Sure.
cat
About you?
I am also scared of dogs. When they bark at me, I'm like,
Oh, nice.
That is so
another brother.
interesting. That's so interesting that you guys are scared of dogs, but you're doing this podcast.
I'm gonna-
I'm not that
Totally
scared
into
of
it.
dogs. Of fictional dogs, they're fine.
Right.
No, I
Real
like
dogs.
fictional- cartoon dogs are fine. I love cartoon dogs.
Eli knows what it's like. Like if I see a real life dog and he's unleashed, I ain't going outside.
I tell you, ours are, they bark a lot and they sound scary, and they would absolutely do nothing to you except for maybe accidentally knock you over.
What type of dog are they?
They're a couple of muffins, like 80-pound muffins.
They're collies.
Oh.
Yeah.
Her dad loves collies. I had one when I was a kid that he gave me because he used to, didn't he used to raise collies?
Yes.
Like breed them?
Yeah, yep. My dad used to sell collies. Like the one on here that leads them to the barn with the, but we have a sable and white, which is what you'd see on this movie, and then we also have a tricolor, which is the black with the cute little eyebrows and the white and everything. So, yep, nope. That's one of those dogs where how they're portrayed on television is somewhat accurate. I would not count on mine to actually save me. Like,
They're not Lassie.
it's not that they don't care, but they're not, you know.
Too bright.
They're not.
No, I really, I'm not gonna sit here and argue about how smart they are, because I mean, I remember one time where one had the leash went around the clothesline, and it was like, okay, the brakes are on, I can't go anywhere. So, well, you could come around the pole. Yeah, so
Nice.
It's not like they never do anything to display intelligence, but I don't think that they're the smartest dogs in the world. Which probably helps them to be more agreeable, honestly.
There you go. There's a lesson here somewhere.
The 101 Dalmatians is an unrealistic movie, is what you're saying.
Oh, well, I wasn't, but yeah.
Now that you mention
No,
it.
but I was just joking. That was my joke. My joke was that like
Yes.
101 Dalmatians has a bunch of smart dogs in it, and you're saying dogs aren't as smart, whatever.
Oh, well, no, there are definitely dogs that super smart, but it seems like I've had cats that were very intelligent, and the more intelligent the cat is, sometimes the bigger the handful they are, and I think that that's the case with dogs too. Like, if you're that smart and you combine that with energy, you need a job. You're not supposed to just be lying around on the couch. So
Okay, I see. Well, my point, the twilight bark though, that's not a real thing that dogs do, though, is it? Like,
I
Oh.
mean,
That's
we don't
beautiful.
know.
I wouldn't throw that out the window, because like they will communicate, they will bark at other dogs in the neighborhood. Like, and we're out in the country, and then when the coyotes go off, ours want to go off, but they'll go off out about anything. Yeah, no, if plants, they found out that trees communicate with each other, so
oh wow.
there's like all kinds of things that yeah, if it turned out that they had their own secret language, I could believe it quite easily.
Okay.
Maybe not to this extent. Of course,
I mean-
if somebody offered me proof, then
Well, I'm underestimating dogs' intelligence, because I just think that like a bunch of animals working together around the world to save a bunch of puppies just seems unrealistic to me.
Have
Maybe
you not
they
heard
could.
have you not heard of Scooby-Doo?
Oh, Scooby-Doo.
Yes.
so out of the two, you're Jasper, not Horace, because Horace kept guessing that what they were actually doing, and then Jasper's like, no, they
Oh, don't
wouldn't
like
do
it,
that.
Ah, yeah, you're right. Jasper kept underestimating them. Like, dogs aren't smart like people and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm Jasper, I guess.
I think what Sarah was saying is some dogs might be smart, but hers are not.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yes,
overall
that would be
message.
that's kind of more of the point there.
okay. I thought she was saying all dogs are dumb. Okay.
Oh no, for sure.
Hashtag
no.
not all dogs.
Yeah, like the Belgian, police dogs. No,
Okay.
they're yeah,
Yeah.
the ones off in military
Yeah.
zones and stuff. Yeah, no.
I wouldn't know. I don't have any dogs.
Well, here's an interesting
Nice,
thing.
Eli.
Here's an interesting thing, because they did this study, however accurate that was, of what made people, because I think they were noticing people buy these dogs that look like them, but what they noticed was that the biggest commonality between dogs and their owners was the expression in their eyes.
Hmm.
Like owners and dogs having similar expressions to each other. So maybe similar spirit between, not that that's always the case. It's not.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But yeah.
Who knows? Maybe like people like when they choose which dog to get, they like subconsciously it's the eyes that they connect with.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
I think that I'm a cat person who likes dogs. That's
Okay.
Interesting.
yeah.
I'm a cat person who likes dogs occasionally.
Dogs are a lot of responsibility.
I like that cats just do their own thing. They're not high maintenance, usually. Unless you get one of the long-haired ones that you got to brush all the time.
There's high maintenance emotionally, and there's high maintenance coats. But that's a whole ramble.
Yeah. Where were we? Where were we on 101 Dalmatians?
Well, we talked about the Twilight Bark, so I guess that leads into Pongo and Purdy going off to save their puppies and the other puppies from Hell Hall, and that leads to like a very interesting fight scene, I guess you could want to call it.
Yeah. I think this is like the first movie that was directed by Wolfgang Reitherman. I thought he co-directed it with other people. I think like Clyde Geronimi also directed it, but this was his first movie and that he directed. And Wolfgang Reitherman is an animator who is really good at staging like action scenes. He was the guy who like directed the animation for the Headless Horseman chase in Ichabod, and he also animated Monstro, and he animated the dinosaurs in Fantasia. So like all his movies, starting with 101 Dalmatians, had some really good like Wolfgang Reitherman-y action, like, and that that fight scene felt like very him.
Within the
or
barn?
combining humor with action.
Or at Hell Hall.
Yeah, the Hell Hall. Like it's like the scene when like Pongo and
When they
Purdy
break in.
break in and save the puppies. And then they have to go through the snow, and Lucky was complaining about his toes were frozen and everything, and like
I feel like that's something that we've quoted in our household too.
My toes is froze.
My nose is froze.
That does seem like something that a kid would latch on to and repeat.
I think that might have even been my mother as well.
Yeah. But this movie was so good because like it felt so epic. Like this is like not only did they like they have to rescue like 99 puppies, and they took care of all 99 of them. Pongo was like counting all of them as they were walking by because he didn't want to leave any of them behind.
He took the leadership role, and he was good, and Purdy too, and they were good at it.
Yeah, and it's like you could just feel the struggle, like of like trying to save 99 different puppies and trying to make sure Cruella de Vil doesn't find them. It was like there was suspense
and not leave tracks and go on the ice, and
yeah, they did a good job
loading up the truck, like going in small batches.
That was the most suspenseful part, when they had to go on the truck and they had to hide from her the whole time because she was like looking for them.
She's looking at them like something's going on here.
Yeah, she was
circling with such good sound design.
Yeah,
just the fact that they didn't like pump in a bunch of suspenseful music. They just let the scene and the sounds speak for themselves.
Her glaring into the building is pretty. Yeah, that says a lot without.
Yeah. The music. Yeah, you're right. The music was very subtle, letting the story play out, not overbearing the story.
Mm-hmm. Here's one of the things that I was thinking through. It's like that driver that they're trying to run off the road. She could have just yelled at him to pull over.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not something Cruella would do.
Was she afraid of questions? Was she trying to kill him? What was happening there?
Yeah.
It seemed that way.
I never thought of that. She could have just said, "Hey, can you please pull over? I think there are dogs in your truck."
Nah, I can't see Cruella being that.
Maybe she didn't want any questions to be asked. Maybe she was trying to, like, I don't know.
No, I think she had a mania, like Mr. Toad. Like once you're hooked on that, once you're addicted to
Yeah.
that, you're doing whatever you can to
Well,
get it. And if it means knocking the guy off the road with the truck, well, so
well,
be it.
and she
Road
was acting
rage.
very angry, so she may not. Yeah, there could be that element of just not thinking.
Yeah, it could be. That's probably what it was. Like, yeah, I mean, well, she definitely, by the time
I think
she's
it's
like,
not caring more than anything.
well, by the time that movie was ending and she was like driving half a car down the street, like, and trying to run the truck over that, well, you could definitely tell she was like losing it at that point.
Like that scene at the end when she's driving and like her eyes are just like totally mad.
Oh, they were
Didn't
like
Mr.
red.
Toad's eyes do the
Yeah.
same thing? Just the
Yeah, yeah.
circles, the
Hmm.
crazed Mr.
Yeah.
Toad, Wendell
Oh.
Wells.
Oh, the Mr. Toad analogy is very spot on. Yeah.
If Mr. Toad was more evil, he would be cruel.
Yeah. Oh, could you imagine Mr. Toad being a villain? That would be scary as hell.
You maybe shouldn't be spouting that idea out to the internet.
Mm,
Next thing you know, he's an axe murderer or something.
Give it 20, 40 years, however long it's going to take for Wendell Wells to hit public domain, somebody's probably going to eventually do that.
Is it not in public domain?
Wouldn't
I
it
don't
over? Is it after 100 years?
It's 90 something, I think.
Well, then that was like in 1912. I think
Oh,
that
maybe
was
it is
published.
then.
Yeah.
So
There you go. We need the Winnie the Willows horror movie. Will come out sometime.
Yeah.
I will not be reviewing that with Jonathan. That will be like a Nicky film or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is in public domain, so okay.
Yeah.
okay.
There we go.
They could do it if they wanted. Yeah.
Okay, so nobody gives me
Nobody. Yeah. No.
The Incredible
don't
Mr.
even-
Toad. Murderer.
Yeah.
It's time to take back Toad Hall. You see a big axe.
Please,
Little weasel head on a stake.
we don't need any more of these. I didn't even really think we needed the Cruella de Vil movie with Emma Stone, but like they made that, and people liked it. There was some like it did well.
I still haven't seen that one. I was waiting until I get to it on the podcast.
It wasn't horrible, but it's like it's not Cruella. I don't know what it is.
Oh wait, Mark, you're the live action Disney movie guy. What did you think of that one?
Yeah, it was, I mean, I don't like any of them, but for it's okay. Yeah, I think I gave it like a C.
Okay.
But it's like it's not Cruella. It's like, oh, I'm supposed to feel sorry for this person because she was actually the victim because someone else did her wrong, and that's the story of Cruella. She was just so misunderstood. Like, nah, that's
It
not
was
like
like
Cruella.
it was like Maleficent, where they
Like,
basically took
exactly.
the character and made a whole new story around some basic plot points. It's
Yes.
not the
Yeah.
same character.
Very much so.
I think they're gonna do the same thing with Scar in that Mufasa movie.
Yeah, because
That's what it appears to be.
they're already making Mufasa an adopted brother of Scar, which I have a lot of questions about.
I already that plot point you just pointed out. Already, I'm not into
Yeah.
it now. Like, why? Okay, I'm not gonna get into
Like,
it.
how does the monologue about Simba, look at the stars, those are our ancestors, how does that go now if he's an adopted kid?
Yeah, that doesn't. Yeah. I could go all night if I talk about the live action Lion King or the whatever it is. It's not live action.
Live action, quote unquote.
Quote unquote live action.
Live action, emphasis on the lie.
It's on the lie. Yeah. Yeah. No, I've never seen the Cruella movie either, but I heard that some people liked it. I heard some people didn't. It got mixed reviews, but like I never really like, and I like Emma Stone. So if I was gonna watch it, it'd probably be for her. But like I never felt the like need to see it.
Yeah, I'll watch it for the podcast, but I hadn't felt the need to get to it before now.
I've seen the live action 101 Dalmatians that they did in the 90s, but I haven't seen the sequel 102 Dalmatians.
We had both of those. I watched them a lot growing up. I don't remember much of the sequel. I remember watching it a bunch, but I don't remember a lot of it. I remember Cruella was like reformed, but then something happened and like she went crazy and her hair frizzed out or something. I don't remember why.
I remember that too. I remember watching 102 Dalmatians, and that was the only thing that everything you just said was the only thing, are the only things I remember. Like, 101 Dalmatians, the first one from 1996, though. Like you said, you watched that movie a lot. So what did you think of that one? Because I haven't seen that in a long time.
I remember loving it as a kid. I still need to see it again, and it'll be one that I try and get to next year probably. So
Hmm.
I'll watch it eventually at some point in the next few months for the
Yeah.
podcast. So I'm going to assume that I will enjoy it because of nostalgia. I don't know
Right.
if it would hold up for just a random person who wanted to turn it on as a movie. I mean, Glenn Close though, like she
Oh yeah.
what do the kids say these days? She ate and left no crumbs. I feel
Is
like
this
that would be a way to describe Glenn
I
Close as
think that
Cruella.
is that what the kids are saying nowadays?
they
Something like that.
she ate. She ate. That's what they. I hear them say that a lot. Yeah, that's what they.
What does that
No,
mean?
but
She ate and left no crumbs. That's how good she was.
It basically
I don't
means
know what.
that she was amazing.
Oh,
okay.
That's what that basically means. Yeah.
I did watch 101 Dalmatians 2 quite a bit though.
Oh, Patch of London
Yeah,
Adventure.
Patch London, yeah.
I feel like we borrowed that from the library once and then never again. So it must not have been that impressive to us as kids.
I enjoyed it enough as a direct-to-video Disney film to watch like multiple times.
Although it probably came out when I was like at the end of my teenage years. So
Mhm.
it wouldn't have been one that I checked out even. It probably was one of my younger brothers. And
Mhm.
That was like
I guess I shouldn't speak for them. I don't remember them borrowing it more than once. So maybe they did. I don't know. I remember watching it maybe once and I remember absolutely nothing of the plot. So
I remember watching that when it came on Disney Channel, and I remember thinking it wasn't bad. There were things about it that I thought, oh, this is better than I thought it would be, but I never really felt the need to watch it again. It wasn't like my favorite or anything.
Mhm.
I'll probably look up that one sometime next year to watch for the podcast.
Yeah, I remember thinking when I watched it, there's a lot of thunderbolts in this movie.
Was that dog supposed to be a parody of something? Because it wasn't Lassie.
Maybe Rin Tin Tin.
I was wondering, but I've never seen Rin Tin Tin, so I wasn't sure.
I could buy that maybe because he looks a little Rin Tin Tin esque, like, and those movies are old enough that they could have been parodying it, but I'm not sure.
so I stole Jonathan's book here, and I don't know if I'm totally distracting from what you're talking about because I was looking at some of it. It's reminding me of stuff, one or more things that I've forgotten, and yeah, I won't go into all of it. The 101th Dalmatian turns, I believe, is Perdita, the liver-spotted Dalmatian's long-lost husband.
Oh.
named Prince.
Okay, that's the guy that I was talking about earlier then.
And it
Okay.
wasn't yes and no to the cat destroying the furs. The cat. Can I read a small section?
That's fine.
Okay. At that moment, they heard a little noise at the window, a little scratching noise. Outside, in the midst of a white blur, were two green eyes. It was Cruella's white cat. And she's Persian. Swiftly Pongo let her in. Such goings on at the DeVilles, she said. Quickly Pongo turned to his wife. I haven't explained to you yet, missus. Our friend here told me that if we could get into that bolted room, we could destroy Mr. DeVille's whole stock of furs. Cruella made him keep them all there so that she could wear any she fancied. I hoped we might put an end to his furrier's business. That was why I took the risk of going into the DeVille's house, not to be revenged, but to make England safe for Dalmatians. And it's even better than I hoped, said the white cat, because it turns out most of the furs weren't paid for, so Mr. DeVille's ruined. The poor little man, said Mrs. I feel quite sorry for him. No need to, said the white cat. He's as bad as Cruella. The only difference is she's strong and bad, and he's weak and bad. Anyway, they're going to leave England tomorrow to get away from their debts. Cruella still has her jewels, said Mrs. regretfully. Mostly shams, said the white cat. And those that aren't will be needed by Mr. DeVille to start another business abroad. He says he's going to make plastic raincoats. Cruella won't look very well in those, said Mrs. cheerfully. And I could go on, but
So there is a Mr. DeVille.
yes. Oh, yes.
So it looks like that is his name.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so you weren't going crazy, Mark.
Next.
I just wasn't sure whether
Not yet.
she was the only one called DeVille or... But yeah, so the cat... And then the cat did go to live with them. And I think the cat may have made friends with the tabby that helped them. But there are all these little details. Yeah. Lovely.
Okay.
Anyway.
Well, I guess we could talk about the end since we've talked about most everything else.
Yes.
Yeah, we went through the whole plot.
And they talk about having a Dalmatian plantation, and they don't say it, but I think it makes so much sense that in the book they would just have them by Hell Hall.
Yeah.
It just sort of redeems the situation.
What Hell Hall used to be, yeah.
Yeah, because it would be the perfect place to have that many dogs if you were inclined to have that many dogs. I personally would not be.
We already know that they'd fit there.
That's true.
So,
Yeah,
they fit inside the house.
We've tested it out already.
I cannot imagine caring for that many dogs. I can't even imagine caring for the 2 that Sarah has. They would drive me crazy.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
I love how they have 99 puppies and they're just like, let's keep them all. It'll be fine. How hard can it be?
One scene I always liked, I don't know why I liked it, but it was when Roger's doing the addition at the end to count out how many dogs there are. I don't know, I just like that scene.
I like that scene too. It was just like, it felt like really like we're really going to like finally, this is what the whole movie was building up to, because that's the name of the movie. And so it felt like, oh, this is the moment right now.
But they all fit inside their apartment too, which is also interesting.
Yes, they do.
Not once they grew up.
Cartoon physics and volume there, I think.
That's what I say, cartoon physics. It must, like, that's the only way that could make sense.
Cartoon math.
Well, hadn't they moved from the apartment into a small house? Once they got married, they moved into a small house.
It is a different place. Yeah.
I never realized that, actually.
Yeah, because there's a few more rooms that you don't see in the apartment.
Like if we need to have logic for this scene, which...
I mean, well, I don't know what the economy was like in that period. So, like, who knows? Maybe that made total sense.
Well, he's also rich after he sold the Cruella de Vil song, so...
Oh, he's rich, right?
Yeah, there's that little... It made more money than we'd ever dreamed of. Something like that.
Yes, exactly. At the end of the movie.
Which they kind of need that little plot point.
Yeah, if they're going to care for all those dogs. Can you imagine the dog food bill?
Do we know who the voice is who's singing the Cruella de Vil song on the radio at the end of the movie? I don't think it's Billy again.
The female singer?
Is it a woman? Or was it
I believe so,
It's a woman.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah.
Do we know who it was?
I don't know who it is.
I don't know. I'll look through the...
I don't think I ever came across that.
Jean Gale, the wife of the film's composer George Bruns, performed the radio version of Cruella de Vil in the film's final scene.
That's a fun fact.
It would have been so perfect if it had been the voice actress for Cruella.
That would have been something.
That would have been hilarious. But yeah. Oh, the wife of George Bruns.
Yeah.
That's if it was the wife of George Burns, that would have been something.
That would have been random. I didn't even know that. Okay, that's good. That's a good fact.
Did any of you ever watch any of they made 2 TV series about this. Did any of you guys watch any of them?
No.
I did. There was a 101 Dalmatians animated series that came on ABC in the 90s. And like that sort of explained what happened after the movie, because they moved to the country and there was actually a scene in that TV show where they like feed kibble to all the puppies in the trough next to the barn. So that was like, they sort of like answered a bunch of questions of how they take care of all those dogs.
You're making me question, have I ever watched a spin-off? And it's not gelling.
I vaguely remember it, so I think it might have played on Saturday morning, because on Saturday mornings they would have like Disney's One Saturday Morning where they would import Disney Channel shows to ABC. So I think, at least for a brief period of time, they might have played it there. I don't remember that I watched a whole lot of it. I don't know if you would have seen it or not. But I know I've seen at least some of it. I don't remember anything about it, but I know that I at least saw an episode.
Yeah. I watched that a lot, and I watched that show a lot, and it was like a lot cartoonier than the movie. They went really wacky with it. It's sort of like what they did with Timon and Pumbaa's TV show.
Mm.
It was like a lot more wacky, and also the art style, as you can probably remember, was like super stylized too. And this, Roger had an American accent instead of an English accent. They took a lot of liberties, but it was an entertaining show.
I never saw that, nor did I see 101 Dalmatian Street, which is the second show based on
Oh
that
yeah.
property that came out in 2019 and 2020. And according to Wikipedia, it's set 60 years after the original film, featuring a whole new family of Dalmatians who are all descendants of Pongo and Perdita, and they all live without a human.
Oh, I didn't
Interesting.
realize there was no humans. I thought
Apparently,
I read that Cruella was in the series, though. What
in
is she,
this,
like 105 and she's like ancient and decrepit?
I no
I've never
idea.
seen that show, so I don't know.
I
Yeah.
never watched that either.
I'm looking at the Wikipedia page. I don't see a voice cast for Cruella.
Good.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just thought I read that somewhere.
Have you watched that show, Mark?
No, I haven't seen either of them.
Okay. Oh, no, you haven't seen either of them. Okay. Yeah, because I'm sort of curious about if that show is any good. So I might check it out myself.
And there have been two stage musicals based on 101 Dalmatians, neither of which I think are actually based on the Disney version, but that was interesting to know, I think.
I don't think I knew that.
I think that they were either very popular. Like the first one came out in 2009, and the most recent one came out in 2022, and there will be a UK tour this year, actually.
So this is something Disney is not involved in. This is a different production company.
Yeah, it's a musical based on the book itself.
Okay.
Interesting.
It has nothing to do with the Disney's version.
Is this a musical? Or...
Correct.
I would be curious to know how they do that and how close they stick to the book, because it's what, like, obviously I like seeing different versions of things, but this is one of those cases where
Mhm.
like Disney has done so much with 101 Dalmatians, but it's basically just Disney. Like 101
Yeah.
Dalmatians was not written by Disney. It's based on a
No.
book, but
Yeah.
so far, at least on screen, no one but Disney has done anything with it, but Disney has done a bunch with it. So I would be curious to see how someone outside of Disney would take the story.
It looks like in the 2009 musical, they actually had live dogs on stage, and they used the live dogs in the musical
Live
itself.
doll.
Yeah. And the
That would be
2022
nice.
one, it looks like they use a lot of like puppetry.
Mm,
Okay.
I feel like puppetry would be the easier way to go.
Yeah.
I vote live dogs.
That's good.
I mean, that would be nicer, but like, imagine trying to direct all the
Every
dogs.
every night.
I mean, that sounds like a disaster waiting to happen, but that's just me.
Just gotta have faith and
That's
really
true.
good trainers.
Good trainers. They must have good trainers, otherwise they wouldn't do it. So I guess you're right.
Well, I don't have an update on age, but looking at the 101 Dalmatian Street Wikipedia page, Michelle Gomez plays Cruella de Vil, so she is in the show. And there is also a listing
Oh,
for a Hunter de Vil, so she's married in 101 Dalmatian Street.
Is Hunter her husband or like someone
I'm
else?
assuming so, unless she
Where,
had a
where did you
kid,
see that? I
but
didn't see that when I was looking. Oh, never mind. There it is. I see it. I didn't see it before. Michelle Gomez. Okay.
okay. So it takes place 60 years after the original, but Cruella de Vil is in it.
Correct.
That
apparently.
sounds that sounds strange.
How
I'll
did
I'll
I?
have to look into this show. I feel like at some point maybe I should do a podcast on the series. I don't know if I'll watch the entire thing, but I'm curious. I'm especially curious to see what they do with Cruella.
Yeah, because that seems like a weird direction, but that makes me even more curious, though.
Oh, okay. This is even stranger. Look, the description on here says 101 Dalmatian
Hmm.
Street centers around a large family of 99 Dalmatian puppies whose name begins with the letter D. Their parents Doug and Delia, the latter of whom is the great great granddaughter of Pongo and Perdita. They often leave the eldest siblings, Dylan and Dolly, in charge while they're busy at work. The Dalmatians live by themselves at 101 Dalmatian Street, located in Camden Town, London, in the 21st century, with no human supervision, as their owner, Dodie Smith, An eccentric billionaire left them her house and went to live on an island.
It's not.
That's something.
Is anybody caring for them?
Strange.
Apparently not.
That's unless you're a crazy dog owner, that's not realistic dog owner behavior.
There you go.
They have grass. They can
Oh,
catch wild rabbits. It'll be fine. I'm totally cracked.
Okay, I should watch this show. I need to like at least see the pilot just to get a sense of what is this.
It only lasted one season.
Oh, it might not. Who knows? It might not be good then. Like, I'll still watch it.
Maybe you'll feel complete.
Yep.
It could be an underrated gem.
Maybe we should come back at some point next year and talk about it, because I am curious. Like, because if you saw the original series, we should talk about that too, and then I should like catch up on both of them. Maybe not watch the entire both series, but like enough to get a flavor, and then talk about what went right and what went wrong. I'm just curious about Cruella de Vil more than anything. I don't care about the dogs.
Yeah. Right. That's fair, because it's like I really want to know what they do with her and how she is still alive.
I'm just imagining an ancient shriveled husk of Cruella wheeling around in a wheelchair after the dogs.
Like, that's frightening.
Gotta get you pretties and your little dog too. All 99 of them. I think my only other interesting fact related to 101 Dalmatians, not really, but kind of, that I like, it's an anecdote by the actor Michael Caine. He's one of my favorite actors of all time, and Michael Caine isn't his real name. His real name is Maurice Micklewhite. Michael Caine is a stage name. So when he talks about how he got that stage name, it was like at the time of his career when he was on the phone in a public phone booth talking to his agent, and they, for some reason, they needed him to pick a stage name really quick. So he was thinking Michael, and then he was looking around. He was like in an area where there was a lot of movie posters, and he saw the movie poster for The Caine Mutiny with Humphrey Bogart, and he was one of his favorite films, one of his favorite actors. So that's where he got Michael Caine from. So when he tells the story, he's like, if I'd only looked the other way, I would have been Michael 101 Dalmatians. So, that's my favorite fact about this movie.
That's a good one. Like, my favorite fact that we didn't talk about might be when Chuck Jones like saw this movie, and she said his reaction to it was basically only Disney would make a movie about 101 Dalmatians, because only they would have the like animation skills to handle all those spots. Like,
yeah, I cannot imagine trying to keep all of that consistent.
That's the most miraculous thing about this movie, the fact that they animated all those spots and made it it kept it all on model.
And all without computers.
And each of the dog characters has their own look, and they're recognizable.
Yeah, right.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I think Lucky. Yeah, I don't know how many people know this about Lucky, but he has a spot pattern on his back that's the shape of a horseshoe. If you look closely.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Have to look closer next time.
Joe, check that out.
I like Rolly.
Yeah, I like Rolly.
You put anything to eat? Yeah, you're reading my mind, kid.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that will probably be all for this episode. We'll probably be back for more in the future, not right away, but we will come back to 101 Dalmatians. So until then, do you guys want to let people know where they can find you if they'd like more from you? Eli?
Yeah, I'm mostly on Twitter. My handle is eJunkie2014, but I also have a blog called the Entertainment Junkie Blog, and it's at the website ejunkie.blog.com. You can find me there.
And Mark?
You can check me out on my blogs at The Animation Combination at theanimationcombination.com. I post like animated film reviews, top 13 lists, and I run my own Who Wants to Be a Millionaire themed animation themed game show there. And I have my other blog, My Live Action Disney Project, at myliveactiondisneyproject.com, where I'm trying to watch and review every single theatrically released live action Disney film ever made. So check me out there. Thanks.
And Sarah?
I'm in Iowa. I'm Turnip Wilson on Redbubble. I have my artwork on there, and there are dogs. No Dalmatians, but there are dogs.
Okay. Well, until the next time we get together for something else.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Disney Movie Marathon. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and follow my co-hosts as well. My link tree and all of our links will be in the description below. If you want more of my content, all my podcasts are available on YouTube as well as most podcast platforms. If you enjoyed this show, check out one of the other podcasts or check out my Patreon for bonus and extended episodes you won't find anywhere else. We'll be back soon with another brand new episode, so thanks for listening and we'll see you next time.